Hello there. I'm very excited today because we're gonna jump back into something that I promised we would jump into a while ago, which is a little bit story of my life. But today we are back on coffee roasting. Now, this is something I don't know a ton about. I've been pretty upfront about that, but I'm very excited to learn more about it. And I like the idea of being able to do it at home. So we've been going through a couple different ways that you can roast coffee at home, kind of learning together, which is also a story of my life. But last time we used an at-home roasting tool that essentially had like a heating pad underneath and then had very similar to like a popcorn maker, like a rotating spit. I'll just go get it. Give me a second. This is what I was trying to explain right there. Now this has a heating element inside it. So the surface of this heats up. You place your green coffee beans inside. You have this nice little like rotating mechanism. So in theory, all the beans rotate pretty evenly. Eventually they reach a proper temperature where they're able to actually kind of have that caramelization reach first crack. And it was a good time. It was a good first try. One of the main issues we saw with that particular at-home roasting machine is that there was quite a bit of discoloration in the final product, mostly because that little part that is spinning the beans around wasn't doing it very effectively. So certain beans were not rotating and sitting too far on the heat, and then they were too dark while some of the beans weren't dark enough. It was just kind of a whole ordeal. But at the end of the day, we did have roasted beans that tasted pretty good. Now I've got something different for us to try today. This right here is a popcorn maker. No, it's not a popcorn maker that's made for roasting coffee beans. There's nothing really special about this. It's just an air popcorn maker. This is a pretty common and also pretty accessible way to start roasting at home. I've never tried it, and I'm very excited to do so today. I'm hoping for nice light to medium roast beans. I am hoping for something tasty that we can try, and I'm hoping that we won't have too much chaff, because that was there was a lot of chaff last time. So hopefully we'll have a little bit better of a containment unit this time. Anyways, I gotta go grab our green coffee beans, get this all plugged in. So while I do that, I'm gonna give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, and I will see you very, very soon. I wanna give a huge thank you to Vessi for partnering with me on today's video. I've been wearing Vessis for a while now, and they've fast become some of my favorite shoes to wear anywhere from work to my everyday. But since it's summer, I'm actually taking these with me on an upcoming trip. Their everyday move slip-ons are some of my favorite for comfort and walking, while their weekend model have a low profile for more casual outfits, so I'm taking both. Besides that, they both pack super easily into my carry-on. Additionally, Vessis are 100% waterproof and made from a lightweight Dymatex knit material, meaning that while I'm going to be hiking and exploring, my feet will stay dry and comfortable. This really makes them the perfect all-purpose travel shoe, and their herringbone tread pattern helps them remain grippy and safe for long walks both in the city and in nature. Frankly, I'm super excited to see how these shoes perform on the trip, and I'll be sure to report back. Now, if you want to match with me and get your own pair of Vessis for yourself or even a friend, I gotcha, because Vessi is giving my subscribers $25 off your purchase when you click the link below and enter code Morgan. That's the link in the description, and enter code Morgan. Thank you again to Vessi for sponsoring today's video. Welcome back. It turns out plugging this in turns it on, so we will wait. Now I've got a couple other things right here with me. I of course have our popcorn maker sitting on the side. This was I think about 20 bucks, so pretty affordable. We also have a colander that I will be using both to dump the finally roasted beans into, and also just kind of as a catch in case any beans and or chaff decides to kind of jump out of this during the roasting process. I have a timer, so we'll be able to track the time that this all takes. This is the pre-included scoop with the coffee maker. It also acts as kind of a seal here on top, very nice. And then I have some green coffee beans. Now, one note about using this is being aware of the capacity of this sort of like roaster, for lack of a better term. The recommended and or general kind of rule of thumb with these is that you don't want to be using more coffee beans than they recommend popcorn kernels. So for this, they recommend you use half a cup of popcorn kernels. So translated, we're gonna be using approximately half a cup of green coffee beans, which, let me find out for all of you who might be curious. Half a cup of green coffee beans, at least the ones I have, appears to be about 80 grams. Do with that what you will. Okay, so essentially our order of operations here, we're gonna put our green coffee beans in. We are then gonna turn this on. This is gonna start heating. There's gonna be a lot of hot air in here, which is gonna start to roast these coffee beans. We're gonna be looking for first crack. If you remember me talking about this in our last roasting video, that is when the moisture inside these green coffee beans starts to expand and evaporate, causing them to, first of all, take on that really nice roasty brown color that's pretty iconic to coffee beans, but it also causes them to essentially kind of like split open. You'll hear kind of a light popping, like crackling sound. That's gonna be an indicator that we're gonna be pretty close to done. After that, I'm just gonna really pay attention to color to get it exactly where I want roast-wise. And then we dump it out, we wait for it to cool, we separate as much chaff as possible off of these, and then we let them degas, and then we can have them, drink them, use them, do all the fun things. So I think we should just get started. Now we're gonna adjust the second angle so you can actually see what's happening inside here. All right, well, it's not the prettiest thing in existence, but this will work. So first things first, 80 grams green coffee beans. Do your best to make sure they all go into the chamber. Let's turn it on. Let's see what happens. So far, this is far more exciting. Oh. Turns out this might be a little bit of a game of catching coffee beans and putting them back in. And perhaps we will do that. It's a little bit stressful here. I'm just gonna give up on catching and returning any of the green beans that are coming out. We are catching some of the chaff, definitely not all of the chaff. I was really hoping this would be a more clean process. The answer is no so far. We are about a minute and a half in. We are starting to see kind of a light yellow color over most of the beans, which is good. Definitely don't do this without a colander. While it's not catching everything, this is catching a majority of what's coming flying out the end of this. All right, we're at the point of seeing pretty rapid acceleration of color. We're at a tan brown color, so I'm gonna dump this and then get this ready for eventual transfer once our coffee beans are fully roasted. Also, beware, don't do what I just did. Do not try to pick up these beans at this point. That was, was a toasty bean. All right, we're about three and a half minutes in right now. Just looking at the color, first crack should be happening anytime, so I'm really listening here. Okay, I am starting to hear that, there we go, pretty distinct like cracking and popping sound. That means first crack is happening, which is awesome. I'm gonna give these another like 30 seconds and then I'm gonna pull them immediately because I don't want these to get too dark. Okay, pulling the power. I can't believe we caught that all. After you manage your fire alarms, make sure you dump your coffee beans quickly into your colander. While we let that cool, we will also clean up our chaff that has really just escaped and also filled the entire kitchen. I'm gonna do some light shaking here in order to really pull the chaff off of these beans. Additionally, to just get some air movement in there to help them cool down. Okay, so just looking at the beans from kind of a top-down perspective, there's definitely still a little bit of discoloration happening here. There are beans like this that definitely just kind of got stuck somewhere in this apparatus and got more burnt on one side than the other. But for the most part, these are pretty consistent in color, which is very nice. At this point, since we only have 80 grams of coffee, I think I'm just gonna hand sort these. So continue to pull off any remaining chaff and pull out any like really noticeably like discolored or unroasted beans. That way, I'm gonna take a closer look at them, and additionally, I think I might set up a tiny cupping with these. I do want to leave a good portion off to the side to continue to degas and then try them in a couple days, but I think we can have a little bit of a taste right now. Thankfully, at this point, most of the chaff has separated, and also the beans are a nice cool temperature to handle. Fire alarm and poor ventilation aside, I think this might have been a pretty successful batch. Going into this video today, there was a part of me that really wanted to do one batch that was like what I would prefer to drink, roast level wise. And I was really wanting to do a batch that would be like a true French roast. Like I wanted to see how dark I could take it. But after that first incident, maybe that French roast is a different video. Maybe we don't tempt fate again with the fire alarm. I'll also note that this entire roasting process from turning the popcorn maker on to dumping out the beans took about 4 minutes in total. Okay, so before I measure out and grind these for a little bit of a cupping, I do want you to have a second to take a quick look at these. Overall, looking at the color of them, these are looking pretty consistent, which is nice. There were definitely a few that were noticeably burnt, ones that definitely got stuck somewhere, just didn't get agitated enough. That happens apparently with most of these, so I'm not too worried about it, but overall, the ones that were properly roasted look pretty good. Now this is definitely a pretty light roast. I would barely call this even verging on a medium. This is like a pretty true light roast. Now, traditionally you would want to let these degas for 24 hours to a few days before tasting or brewing or drinking these. But we're gonna do just a little bit of a cupping to see where they're at. So yeah, let's do that now. We're gonna do 2 side-by-side bowls to check for consistency. beans are ground. Okay, so dry fragrance, a little bit roasty to be expected. Let's get some water in there and let's get some aromas. Well, let's let these crust over and steep for a little bit. Then we'll break the crust, get aromas, we'll taste things, and then I want to do a little bit of a comparison between this version of roasting and the one we did previously. Our coffees are all crusty now in the best way possible, so let's take in some aroma. On. Sorry, I'm frustrated at myself because I hadn't cupped in a while. Like, it had just been a while since I'd done some cuppings, and then in the last couple of weeks, I've done several cuppings, and each time I've been a little bit overambitious with breaking the crust. I didn't think you could get rusty at cupping, but apparently so. The notes on the nose right now are a little bit herbaceous, a little bit floral, but mostly kind of like almost like a summer garden, the way I can best describe it. Now we'll give everything an additional couple minutes to cool, and then we will be back very soon for some tasting. Hey friend. I would call that adequate cooling time. Oh, I should make a quick note. My last video was about how I have lost my sense of taste. It is not fully back by any means. I'm not at 100% there. However, it is significantly better when I did film that video. So I was just anticipating the comments and questions about that. I am doing marginally better. So we're gonna cup here and hopefully we will taste something at least. Frankly, I feel like these beans could have gone even longer. Next time if I roast with this again, I might try taking them a little bit closer to a medium. But that being said, even with being super, super gassy, like this is the most gassy these beans will be in their lifetime, this is pretty pleasant overall. Like as far as the cupping experience goes, there's still a little bit of like herbaceousness that isn't my favorite, which is why I might want to take it a little bit further, get a little bit more caramelization happening. But it's nice. It is very light. It is a little bit floral. It kind of has like almost a jasmine, like tea-like quality to it. Overall, I am pretty pleased with myself. Now I definitely need to leave the rest of the beans to sit off to the side to continue degassing. Then I'd love to brew them as like a true pour over to get a little bit more of an experience. More experience. Crab's off to the side making fun of me. Anyways, this is definitely something that I will need to continue over the next 3 or 4 days and will have to report back to you on. But overall, this was a time. I'd like to compare these two home roasting apparatuses. So let's do that right now. So 2 different home roasters. This one over here, if you'll remember, cost about $100 USD. So significantly more expensive than this one over here, which was just about $20 for just a standard air popper. There are many different brands. I'm sure you could find them for cheaper if you needed to as well. As far as my overall experience, as someone who knows about coffee but knows very little about roasting, I honestly lean towards liking the air popper a lot more. Now, this one was significantly more messy in the upfront actual roasting process. There's quite the spew of chaff, and the beans, once inside, once the hot air is added, there's a lot of jumping that happens, and a lot of the jumping leads to the beans jumping out of the air popper, which is not super ideal. But overall, this took about 4 minutes in total. We ended up with beans that were pretty consistent in color. We were able to pretty accurately watch to make sure we were getting them to the color we wanted, and the entire transfer process was pretty ideal in terms of getting it from in here into the colander. I think too, it would be very possible to kind of outfit this chute area with some sort of like blockage or something just a little bit better at catching everything, so you didn't have the chaff kind of spraying over the countertop. I think that would be a very easy thing to fix. This method of roasting the coffee beans took significantly longer. If I'm remembering correctly, when we did this took upwards of like 15 to 20 minutes because you weren't just immediately injecting hot air into the coffee roasting chamber. You were essentially heating this metal plate underneath, which took a lot longer. Additionally, there was a lot more inconsistency happening because these prongs that were rotating would catch certain beans, and rather than rotate them and move them and agitate them correctly, it would kind of just drag those beans over the heated surface, meaning that there were quite a few more discolorations and burnt beans than there were in the air popper. That's my take, at least, as a fairly new coffee roasting home novice. As usual, I would love to hear hear any of your experiences down in the comments below. If you have used either of these, if you have any preferences, and also if you have any tips or tricks about how you roast in similar devices. I'm very, very interested in getting better at this, both in just a general knowledge side, but roasting your own coffee and then being able to consume it is very satisfying. Very, very satisfying process. And I'm excited to see how the additional coffee that we have tastes in about 2 or so days. I had a pretty good time today, and I think I have walked away with a little bit more knowledge than I came here with, which is always the goal. Graham's losing it. What was wrong with that sentence? I think I arrived with 2 brain cells and I'm leaving with 4, so. Anyways, I'm Morgan Drinks Coffee, pretty much anywhere you'll find me online. I'm here on YouTube once a week plus shorts. Additionally, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram almost every single day. I unfortunately do not have a coffee to take with me off stage today, but that is what it is. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone.